Well, today, you guys get an update on the beastly dually and what's happening with this thing. So let's get into it. So I had to get myself motivated to work on this thing lately because we've just had too many projects. So I unraveled the molding, threw some of the molding on just to give it some more pop. Got the Pour 15 out and did all of the frame and suspension. Installed the BDS dual steering stabilizer kit and the chrome diff cover. Got my dual shocks back on. We now have the braided steel brake line. We have the drag link installed. Look at that. Those are still the original hubs from 1981. They came pretty clean. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do blue calipers or not, but I'm kind of feeling Yamaha blue on this thing. I got a feeling there's going to be some Yamahas show up soon. I just wanted to try out something different because we just did silver on the Ford out there. It got all silver shocks and silver calipers, so. There we go. That is the look that we're going with. And that gets me excited to get this thing rolling again. So I'm just struggling with the brake line on the other side. Can't seem to break it free right at the frame. So I had to spray it with some fluid film and hopefully loosen that up. And I just got to finish the other side, throw the caliper on and bolt it together so we can put the wheels back on and see what it looks like with all of the shiny stuff under it. Because we're getting the dually ready to leave. I have not been able to get it at it in this shop. Room-wise, this thing just turns into the storage bin for every vehicle we have come in here. All the parts end up on the back of the deck. So I cleaned it off again. I don't know how many times that's been. And we're going to take the dually to my dad's shop where there's 2 bays and I have a big massive bay that the dually can live in where we can do all the fab work on the deck. It's not going to harm anything like, you know, all the other vehicles around here. And then I can bring the Cummins next to it in the bay beside it so that I can start taking that apart and get ready to transfer that Cummins over into this thing. It's just not working doing it this way. I can't seem to get to it. So we're gonna move it out. So we're getting ready for transport. So we have the wheels and tires on. That's just sick looking. My goodness, look at that thing. Holy. Let's just have a quick peek with all of it together. Yes, that is an oil can over there holding the brake line that I haven't finished yet. But we have all new brake pads. It steers. We have wheels and tires on it, not just the fronts. Anybody want to play Price is Right? Look at that, we have clearance. So let's do a refresher on this rear end issue. We have an 81 Chevy K30 1-ton 4x4 cabin chassis model. It's 4 inches longer than a normal long box. The rear end in the cabin chassis are extremely narrow. The factory tires almost rub the leaf springs. I was trying to find a standard cab long box dually rear end because they're 6 inches wider supposedly. I've never seen one, never found one. They're really hard to find around here. So I had a 92 cabin chassis service truck in my yard, an OBS Chevy, and we cut the rear end out of that. And the leaf spring pads are exactly the same spot, location. Shock mounts are opposite sides, so this gray shock hanging here is supposed to have a mount in front, and it doesn't. Oh, it's not. Oh, it is too. Weird. I actually never noticed the 1-ton is opposite than the Jimmy. Interesting. That's the first time I've ever noticed that. So anyway, I have to build dual shock mounts anyways, but we're not sure if we're using this rear end. This rear end was 1.5 inches wider than the one that we pulled out of here. And I still needed clearance because these are 13.5 inches wide. So I used the 2-inch dually spacer on the inside. And then you have to use the DDC lug nuts. They use a 1-inch lug nut, typical dually stuff. And they have the long shaft that goes through the wheels. It has to go through both wheels. So thankfully, using a dually spacer, the studs were long enough that it worked. And it gives me exactly what I need just to transport. Obviously, we're not going to keep it that way because I know that having those mounted on a spacer is just going to tear that spacer apart. That's a lot of weight and abuse for a little spacer like that, and it's made out of aluminum. So at least we can move this thing now and get an idea of clearances that I need, like the deck, because the deck's not mounted onto the frame yet. So we need a little more room than that. I'm sure that once we get a bunch of weight, this thing's going to sag, because let's be real, the springs are 1981. It has a 10 leaf spring pack in there, but they could be sagging, so we'll get the deck all fabbed and mounted, but there may be more lift required in this because to me, it looks like the back end's sitting a little lower than the front end, but we don't have the Cummins in it. There's no motor. Once we do, well, we're going to lose some clearance, I'm sure. So we might be doing more lift front and rear, don't know. But at least we can get it to the shop and get busy on the fab part. I'm really excited to actually be part of that. I've never done much fab work, but this deck, I really have a lot of ideas and designs I'd like to try out on it. And I love all the military stuff, so I want to utilize that just for fun. And now that the dually is on the ground and we can move it, that means the Jimmy is next on deck. The crazy Mercedes is done and gone. The 429 big block Ford that was outside at the beginning of this video is now in getting keyless entry. It'll be back today. I think we just have to put a winch on it and it is done and gone. The Jimmy is on deck. And we have to make the frame and suspension look as good as this because it used to look like that, but I've been driving it for a couple of years. So that means removing all of the shocks, the mounts, the steering shocks, any bracketry, scraping it, sanding it down, and painting it all. It's a lot of work. I mean, a lot. Got to do a set of leaf spring, what do we call add leaves? Set of add leaves in the back. I got a fuel pump I want to upgrade to. So I got a whole week of stuff to do on this. Little bit of paint work. But it's Jimmy time. And I needed to get that ready so I can not be so sad when the Jimmy leaves. Because that is going to be hard to watch this thing drive out of the trailer and say goodbye to it. I have loved this thing. I've enjoyed it. But it's not mine anymore. It's got to go to its new home. I'm sure you're getting excited now, aren't you, Les? So yeah, I had to do this just so that I can tolerate this thing leaving. It was going to be, I'm not going to say an emotional day, but let's be real, it will be. I love my square bodies. I put so much love into them, clearly. Watching them leave is hard. So this is the last Jimmy / Blazer you will see me selling. The Monster Blazer, I do want to finish that one and keep it. I never got to own one of these, and wow, after you've owned one and driven one, they're so hard to let go of and replace, it's crazy. So it's Jimmy time.